What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to another episode of the Dossier, the Marvel Crisis Protocol review show where we talk all things Crisis Protocol characters, how their models look, what they do in the game, and if there's anything of real interest or note with the characters to pay attention to. This is not meant, to be a big in-depth review show. It is just meant to be sort of a springboard to get you thinking about the character, give you some thoughts and impressions over our many uses of many of these characters. There's a lot of really great discussions online that you can find a lot of useful information. I encourage you to go check those out. And of course, this show can't happen without all the wonderful support of the patrons over at patreon.com/hbrandstudios. Just a couple bucks a month helps this channel continue to grow and maintain being current and keep up to date with everything. So thank you so much for everyone who's over there. And thank you all for just tuning in, watching, and hitting that like, subscribe, and comment button. So today we are talking about the very much maligned Crossbones, Brock Rumlow. Unfortunately, not the new Crossbones that came with the Earth's Mightiest Core set. This is the OG Crossbones. And this has always been a bit of a problematic character. So very early on, you can see that his design is very simple. There's not really a whole lot going on with him. It's basically just combat fatigues. He's got some pouches, got a whole Rob Liefeld thing going on here. He's also very chunky. If you compare him to a lot of other models, he's got a lot more bulk on him, which is very appropriate for Crossbones. But it was interesting to see because all the other models that came in the original core set, they were a little bit slimmer. They had a little bit more of athletic build. The models themselves weren't as big and chunky, whereas Crossbones is really kind of on the chunky side as far as model design goes. He's got very, very thick features, very big. But as a result, he was also very simple to put together. There were some pouches. I think there was the one pouch on his midsection there, and then the pistol holder that had to go on. Otherwise, it was a very, very easy piece to put together. Lots of details on the model itself, so it's really great for picking up some of that dry brushing. And you can really get creative with how you want to just pick up some of the details on them. It's an interesting canvas. While I find the model itself is not the most fascinating or fun for me to build or paint, it's something where if you want to get creative, you do have some interesting ways of trying to pick up the different parts of black to shade on various colors, just to kind of see what you can do to make it look not so flat. But that's the Crossbones model. Now, as far as the character it goes, so he's got 6 stamina, he's got 4 physical defense, 2 energy, 2 mystic. His stamina does go down to 5 on the injured side. Then he has a short mover, size 2, and 3 threat. Now, that short movement, I think, is frankly his biggest problem, and we'll kind of get to that as we go through. So he's got a physical strike, which is basically a 5 dice builder attack, range 2, 5 dice, 0 power, power equal to damage dealt. This, I think, is one of his big problems. Because of that short movement and that range 2 to get this attack in, it takes a very long time for Crossbones to get any meaningful power generation. And that's really unfortunate, because I think otherwise this card has a lot of interesting options for it. If that was range 3 or he was just a little bit faster, that would feel a lot better. He'd actually be able to do a lot more interesting stuff. Next up, he's got a Spender, which is a physical attack called Overpower, range 3, 5 dice for 2 power. After the attack is resolved, he gets to place within 1 of the target character. So it's very cheap, and I kind of see where they were going with here, that Overpower was supposed to kind of be his bread and butter to kind of get into range with stuff, because it's only 5 dice. It's the same amount of dice as his builder. So it almost kind of feels like you're supposed to overpower and then strike if you want to do a double tap type thing. It does have a wild throw, where size 2 or less before damage is dealt, the character may throw it. So this is a way of getting a little bit of extra power, because you can throw, then you can do the place, and you can kind of get across the board a bit that way, but still it's very, very limited. Then he's got an active ability, Haymaker, for 4 power. The next strike or overpower attack made by this character adds 3 dice to its next roll. I don't like that economy at all. I don't like 4 power for 3 dice. I would have much preferred it to be cheaper with maybe fewer dice or an X cost type thing. I think at 4 power, when does he have the power to do it? If he's not getting his strikes in and nobody's punching him, it's going to take him 4 rounds to get this power in outside of external factors. Then he has a reactive ability, Inured to Pain, for 1 power. If this character would suffer damage, you can use the power, reduce the damage suffered by 1 to no minimum. So you can bring damage down to 0, but once again, I mean, that's a way of just draining his power and making it so he can't really do anything. And then he's got aggressive. So when he suffers damage, it can advance short towards the target character or the attacking character. So this is another really interesting one because, it kind of works counter to a Nerd to Pain. He wants to take some damage to gain some power and move forward, but a Nerd to Pain is the way to kind of keep him standing. So, I mean, where does that leave Crossbones overall? Well, frankly, he doesn't really have a good home anywhere. And again, it comes down to that range. If you can get a little bit of extra power on him, sure, you can overpower a little bit more regularly. Or if you have ways of like getting attacks on him, maybe you can get a little bit more power that way. Or if you have ways of moving the rest of your team around. But the problem is with 2 5-dice attacks, maybe making it an 8-dice attack by spending 4 power, he doesn't really have the impact on the board that he needs to make him worthwhile. So, I mean, you can try him around in a bunch of things. Like I tried him around with MODOK Scientist Supreme, bodyguarding onto Crossbones, getting him to advance forward, a whole bunch of things with aggressive. And even then, like it just felt I was putting a lot of effort into a character that wasn't worth the time, if that makes sense. Like he never had the impact on the table that I really wanted him to have. And it's really unfortunate because this is one of the original core box characters. Those are the characters that are supposed to make the biggest impact and biggest impression to get you excited and to play the game more. And he just felt like such an underwhelming character as a result. In my personal opinion, I think you could drop him down to a 2 threat, maybe get rid of 1 stamina on his healthy side, and make Haymaker maybe 2 power for 2 dice or something like that. And I think he'd be a perfect 2 threat. I think he'd be that really punchy 2 threat that we don't really have at the moment, outside of like maybe Nebula, but she's like that fast character assassin. But I don't know. Crossbones as a 3 threat just feels really bad to me, and unfortunately, myself and others have tried to really get some good use out of him on the channel, and it just does not happen, which is really unfortunate because I think he had some interesting potential, and I'd much rather see him as a 2. I think as a 2 threat, he probably actually gets a little bit of use because he actually becomes a rather annoying backfield objective holder because anytime you shoot him and displace him, he's just going to walk back onto the point. So. I mean, that's kind of the only thing he really does. He doesn't really interact with the game elsewise, and there's 3 threat characters that just do things so much better and so much more efficiently for you in the game. So now he does get a little bit of interesting use when you include Sin as well, because they do have a mechanic where after Sin activates, you can get Crossbones to activate. You have a little bit of action economy as a result, but that also means you're taking Sin, who also isn't the most interesting character to take in the game as well. And you can check out the Sin Dossier when that goes live to kind of get an idea of what we think about her as well. So that's Crossbones. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think about Crossbones as well. And of course, if you want to support the channel, hit up patreon.com/AegisBrandStudios. It helps support the channel. You get access to our exclusive members-only Discord. And of course, you get my thanks for that one. So yeah, hit that like, subscribe, comment button, and we will see you next time. Happy wargaming.